Long, long ago, when gods and mortals still walked the earth together, and fate was written in the stars, a boy was born whose name would echo through time, Achilles. He was no ordinary child. His mother, Thetis, was a sea nymph, radiant and powerful, a daughter of the ancient waters. His father, King Peleus, was a mortal, brave and noble. When Thetis married Peleus, it was a union of two realms, sea and land, and it was said that even the gods attended their wedding. Thetis loved her son with a fierce, divine passion. From the moment Achilles was born, she could see the glimmer of greatness in his eyes, a destiny that would shine brighter than all others, but not without cost. The fates, those quiet weavers of time, had whispered of a terrible war that would come one day, and Achilles would be both its brightest hero and its greatest loss. Desperate to protect him, Thetis carried her newborn son to the river Styx, the dark, magical river that flowed through the underworld. Its waters were said to make anyone who bathed in them invincible. But there was a danger: mortal flesh could not survive the river's touch unless guided by divine power. With steady hands, Thetis held her baby by his tiny heel and dipped him into the icy river. The water surged with shadows and ancient voices. It clung to Achilles' skin like armor, hardening it, blessing it. But the place where she held him, his heel, remained untouched. Unhardened. Vulnerable. Unaware of this single flaw, Thetis brought her child back from the depths and raised him in secret, in the peaceful woods of Mount Pelion, far from the noise of kings and warriors. There, Achilles grew under the watchful eye of Chiron, the wise centaur who had taught many heroes. Chiron was part man, part horse, but all wisdom. He taught Achilles everything: how to track the wind, how to speak the language of birds, how to wrestle bears and outwit foxes, and how to fight like a god with spear and sword. Achilles was quick, graceful, and impossibly strong. Even as a boy, he could outrun a deer and leap over streams in a single bound. His hair was golden like sunlit wheat, and his eyes held the calm of the sea before a storm. But Chiron also taught him about patience, and fate, and that strength without wisdom is like fire without control: it can light your path or burn everything you love. As Achilles grew into a young man, the world around him began to stir. Whispers of war came on the wind. A prince from Troy had taken something that did not belong to him, a queen named Helen, whose beauty was said to launch 1,000 ships. The kings of Greece began to gather their armies. Honor and revenge were at stake. And Achilles was born to be part of it. But Thetis, who still feared the fates, tried to hide her son once more. Disguised as a girl, Achilles was sent to live on the island of Scyros, among the daughters of King Lycomedes. There, he danced in silken robes, played the lyre, and kept his true nature hidden. But fate has sharp eyes and sharper hands. One day, a clever man named Odysseus, the trickster king of Ithaca, came to the island in search of Achilles. He knew the war could not be won without him. But how to find a warrior hiding among women? Odysseus laid a trap. He brought gifts to the court: fine jewelry, silks, perfumes, and a single sword. As the princesses crowded around the treasures, one girl paused at the blade. He held it, tested its weight, his fingers wrapping around the hilt like it had been waiting for him all along. In that moment, the disguise fell. Achilles stood revealed, not as a girl, but as the warrior fate had promised. And so began the journey that would lead to Troy, to glory, to sorrow, and to the single point of weakness that would outlive him forever. Achilles grew like no other child. Under the guidance of Chiron, the ancient centaur who was part man, part horse, he learned not only to fight, but to think. Chiron taught him the ways of the bow and spear, the rhythm of the sword and shield, and the breath between battle cries. But more than that, Chiron taught him poetry, music, healing, and the secrets of the stars. Strength, Chiron would rumble, is nothing without wisdom. A true hero saves more lives than he takes. Achilles listened. He ran with the deer, climbed cliffs with bare hands, swam with the fish. His feet were faster than wind, his voice deepened like thunder in summer. He was beauty and strength made flesh. But sometimes, he would sit by the river, staring at the water as it moved endlessly around the stones. Chiron, he once asked, "What is destiny?" Chiron's eyes, filled with 1,000 years of knowing, turned toward the boy. "Destiny is like a bowstring, Achilles. You may pull it, but it always snaps forward." At 16, Achilles was unmatched in battle. No blade could wound him. No opponent could match his speed. His fame began to trickle out beyond the mountains, beyond Thessaly, beyond even the mortal world. Whispers reached Olympus. And then came the storm. Far across the sea, a prince named Paris, son of Troy, had committed a sin that would shake the world. He had stolen away Helen, the most beautiful woman in all of Greece, wife of King Menelaus of Sparta. Menelaus, burning with shame and fury, called upon his brother Agamemnon, king of kings. And Agamemnon summoned the greatest of warriors to sail against Troy. It would be the greatest war the world had ever seen. But without Achilles, they knew, they would fail. Thetis, hearing the drums of war in the distance, panicked. She saw the threads of fate twisting tighter around her son's name. She saw the future, a glorious life, short and bright like a falling star. So she hid him. Thetis took her son to the island of Skyros, where he was hidden among the daughters of King Lycomedes. Disguised as a girl, he was dressed in silks and veils, his name unspoken. Thetis believed that war could never find him there. But war, like fate, always finds its way. Odysseus, clever as he was cunning, came to Skyros disguised as a merchant. He laid out fine fabrics, jewels, perfumes, and among them, a single gleaming sword. As the girls admired the bracelets and beads, one maiden reached for the sword. "Found you," said Odysseus with a sly grin. Achilles, realizing his disguise was broken, sighed deeply. He looked toward the sea. "I was born for this, wasn't I?" Odysseus nodded. "Yes. But greatness rarely comes without a cost." And so Achilles, with a heavy heart, sailed for Troy. The war raged on for years. The walls of Troy stood tall, unbreakable. Heroes rose and fell, gods took sides, and storms were sent to sink entire fleets. Achilles, now a man, burned like the sun on the battlefield. No one could stand against him. His sword struck like lightning, and his armor, crafted by the god Hephaestus himself, shimmered with the light of fire. But it was his heart that made him most feared. Achilles fought with passion, fury, and honor. Until one day, his pride was wounded, not by blade, but by betrayal. Agamemnon, arrogant and jealous of Achilles' fame, took from him a prize of war, the maiden Briseis. Achilles, humiliated and furious, withdrew from the battle. Without him, the Greeks began to lose. And when his dearest friend, Patroclus, borrowed his armor to fight in his place, he was slain by Hector, the prince of Troy. Achilles' grief turned to fire. Blinded by sorrow, Achilles returned to battle. His rage was terrible to behold. He hunted Hector like a storm, and when they finally met on the plains before Troy, their battle shook the sky. Achilles slew Hector, dragging his body behind his chariot. But the gods, even in war, demanded respect for the dead. Achilles, slowly, began to change. He returned Hector's body to Troy, a gesture of unexpected grace. And then, the quiet before the storm. For deep in the city, hidden among the battlements, Paris was preparing a gift. With the guidance of Apollo, who had long held a grudge against Achilles, Paris loosed a single arrow. It flew high, cutting the sky, and fell like a whisper from heaven. It struck Achilles in the heel, the one place left untouched by the river Styx. The one weakness. His mother's handprint. The vulnerable thread in an otherwise perfect tapestry. And thus, the mighty hero fell. The war would continue. The Greeks would eventually win, through trickery, the famed Trojan horse. But the greatest warrior of the age was gone. Years later, poets would sing of Achilles. His rage. His beauty. His fall. And from that story, the phrase Achilles' heel was born, a reminder that even the strongest among us may carry one small weakness. A single point of vulnerability, often hidden, often forgotten, until it matters most. And so, whenever someone speaks of an Achilles heel today, they speak not just of weakness, but of a legend. Of a boy dipped in a river. Of a mother's love. Of glory and grief. Of how even the greatest warriors can fall from a single arrow, and how our deepest flaws are often those we never think to guard. The story of Achilles is not just about weakness, it's about courage, passion, and the human condition. It's a reminder that no matter how strong we appear, we all carry something tender within us. A heel. A scar. A memory. A fear. And that's not failure, that's being human. Like Achilles, we strive, we fight, we love deeply, and sometimes, we fall. But there's strength in knowing where we're soft. There's wisdom in honoring our vulnerabilities instead of hiding them. So tonight, as you lay your head down, remember this. Your Achilles heel doesn't make you weak. It makes you whole. It's the part of you that calls for care, for grace, for healing, and for gentleness toward yourself. We all have something. And that something can teach us how to walk wisely, love deeply, and stand bravely, even when we've been wounded. You are stronger than you know, and softer than you let on, and both are beautiful. Breathe in. Let go. Rest well, warrior. And if you enjoyed this story, take a moment to join the tribe. Subscribe to the Safe Space channel, your sanctuary for calm, comfort, and strength in the stillness of night. You're not alone. You're just beginning.